As you all know, President Trump was elected to drain the swamp there in D.C. and also fix our bloated federal government. But can't do it alone. The swamp creatures are definitely fighting back. So lots of people want a convention of states. Article 5 in the Constitution says two-thirds of the states can call a convention to suggest amendments to the Constitution. 12 states, including Missouri, have approved starting a convention. Keith Carmichael is the Missouri director for the Convention of the States and joins me via Skype. Keith Carmichael, welcome to the show.
Hey, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So a lot of people, they hear it and they don't really know what this is. What's happening here?
The states make suggestions. They're called proposals, but they're not really anything. They're not even worth the paper they're written on until they're passed and approved. The word is ratified by 38 states. So those that are against this process like to throw a lot of fear out there. This is about making suggestions.
Right. It's not as if you all are getting together and commandeering the Constitution. This is all just a suggestive thing, and you hope through the power of the convention and your influence, because the people who are getting together here are leaders. They're people who are chosen. That's one of the concerns, too, is who are the individuals who will be making these suggestions. But to allay any fears out there, these are not people who are going to go in and change the Constitution on their own. That's impossible, and we like it that way.
It is, definitely. And what it's all about is basically Washington has come to the point that the framers knew that the government would come to. Washington is making all the decisions, way too many decisions, and the question really is who decides? What we're talking about is we're not taking, you look at folks on every side of the issue, they can all agree that no matter what the issue is, that a bureaucrat that's never even been to your state, perhaps, knows better and can make a decision better than folks who live in the state of Missouri or Illinois. We think we should bring those decisions back home in the state capital, and that's something we can all agree on.
Well, and I think, as you point out, even with Obamacare, for instance, that is a perfect example of how there is some kind of federal monolith dictating states and what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's be clear. They're practicing medicine without a license. They sold this. If you and I had a product that we sold on the basis of this kind of lie and deception, you and I'd be in jail. If we use the kind of accounting that they use in Washington today, we would be in jail. So one of the suggested amendments under the application, by the way, the application that Missouri passed, we're one of 12 states. It's been filed in nearly every state, but it's passed in 12, is for fiscal restraints. And one of the things that would include would be generally accepted accounting principles. Just put them in the Constitution that those in Washington, it's a novel idea. They have to use real accounting. And until they do, anything like a balanced budget, we're just probably wasting our time.
I was about to say, yeah, that would be one of your priorities, I would assume, is to make sure that there's some mandate or suggested mandate to balance the budget, a balanced budget amendment.
Absolutely. We're talking about fiscal restraints. We're talking about restriction on the jurisdiction, the power, the scope of the federal government, and it allows the states to get together and have a discussion. And this is a discussion about term limits would be included as one of the things that could be on the agenda. And that's term limits for federal officials, which would include Supreme Court justices, other justices, federal officials, and so on. So Americans have been by far in favor of many of these issues, but we bring them all together with this application and say, let's get the states together and have a meeting.
And also, by the way, Keith, I mean, a lot of people saying, well, they don't want people meddling around with socialists, whatever, but it appears to me that all of you are really dedicated and more concerned about government fundamentals here, really.
Absolutely. What we have is for the last 80 or 100 years, there's been those that rejected the founding. They've rejected the principles that we call American principles. They've basically adopted ideologies that are imported, European, and then they've pawned it off on the American people, and we're in a situation where, let's just look at this. Senator Tom Coburn and Senator Jim DeMint. If you were trying to put together a trifecta of leaders and people who have fought for small government, limited spending over the years, I really think you'd have to look really hard and long to find anyone else in that category. They just stand in the category of their own. And they have come out in full support of this. They're traveling from state to state, talking to legislators and saying, look, this may be our last best effort, our last best hope for saving the republic. And for those men to say that, I think is really, it's gotten a lot of people's attention.
Absolutely. Love Jim DeMint, but great to see Tom Coburn back in action as well. So appreciate you on that level too, Keith Carmichael.
Sign the petition at cosaction.com and get as many of your friends and family to do the same. With your full address, your state legislators will know that you really are their constituents in their district. Our success depends on you, so we're inviting you to be part of history. Let's invoke the constitutional solution that's as big as the problem.